Good evening. Welcome to Northbeat. I'm Megan Roberts. We begin tonight in Nunavut, where we're learning more about yesterday's gasoline spill in Sanikiluaq that led to a quick evacuation of the community. We now know that roughly 6,500 liters of gasoline leaked from the community's tank farm area. The mayor says it's since been cleaned up. As Samuel Watt reports, the cause was a gas tank overfill.
Mayor Johnny Apaka says a company contracted by the territorial government was transferring gasoline from one tank to another when one overfilled, causing this costly mistake. Arctic Cooperatives Limited confirms it was the local co-op staff involved in that incident. But beyond knowing there was a spill, Sanikiluaq's mayor says he was largely left in the dark.
We weren't getting any information for this community, and they weren't telling us anything. We had to do what we had to do just to be safe.
So he took the precautionary step of telling the community's 1,000 residents to evacuate.
If that fuel was to ignite, then we would have no control over it.
But now he says most of the spill has been recovered because the area was protected with a lined berm. The only information from the government of Nunavut issued yesterday came 6 hours after reports of evacuations and after people were told they could return. All the while, people were left trying to figure out for themselves what was actually happening, including Nukaya Sala. She did a live stream during yesterday's evacuation.
We were thinking, why is no one coming here to help us? And why is Nunavik the first responders? And it later made sense. Nunavik was more prepared and had boats and communications, so we need that here in Sanikiluaq in Nunavut too.
Yesterday, Nunavut's Petroleum Products Division says it did some tests. No fumes were detected beyond the containment area. They say there's no immediate risk to residents now and they're advised to stay away. This is the fifth contaminant spill in Nunavut in just over a week. Samuel Watt, CBC News, Iqaluit.
Alberta's Jasper National Park is the latest center of the wildfire crisis. Evacuation orders for both the park and town came late yesterday. The fire blocked all but one road out, with heavy traffic having to creep through thick smoke. The CBC's Travis McEwen has that story.
Margot Bereska and Ian Sheldon feel lucky to be together in their camper with their kids. Margot was in a campground while the rest of the family were in town with her phone when they got the evacuation order.
Bit of a scary drive leaving, you know, it was very apocalyptic in the sense of a lot of smoke coming in very fast and wondering what was going to happen with them and not having communication.
The town of Jasper has close to 5,000 residents, but this is peak tourism season. There's estimated to be another 20,000 people who were in the area when the evacuation order was issued on Monday night. Many evacuees were sent east to Valemount, British Columbia, as the other two highways were deemed as unsafe. A drive that should take an hour and a half, but many people spent hours in gridlock traffic. Parks Canada says the fire threat remains, and it's now focused on adding more resources to fight the fires, including Alberta's equipment and firefighters. Meanwhile, Jasper residents are left to ponder where to go while they wait out the evacuation order.
Yeah, maybe Walmart tonight, and then maybe find a campsite locally if we can, if they're not all full, and then maybe a friend's driveway if we need to get out away from the highway noise.
Another thing that makes the evacuation of a national park more complex, the presence of backcountry campers. Parks Canada is sending helicopters to designated campsites and trailheads to ensure that campers avoid fire danger. Travis McEwen, CBC News, Hinton.
Another smoky and hot day in Yellowknife today. Environment Canada issued an air quality advisory due to smoke from wildfires. According to NWT Fire, most of the smoke sitting over Yellowknife is coming from the south and east. Fires in the South Slave region of the NWT, as well as Alberta and other provinces to the east, are all contributing to the smoke cover, which is expected to last for the next 24 hours. And there are a lot of fires producing smoke right now, particularly in Western and Northern Canada. In the Northwest Territories, there are 100 active fires. Over the border in Alberta, there are 175. The Yukon has 81 active fires right now, but just south in BC, there are 417. That is more than the Yukon, Alberta, and the NWT combined. Let's stay now in the NWT, where there are still a number of heat warnings in effect, and NWT Fire also says there are fire weather advisories for most regions. In the South Slave, it'll be hot, dry, and smoky with potential thunderstorms overnight. The North Slave will also see hot, dry conditions with added wind. In the Dutcho, there are strong or extreme winds forecast for the next 24 hours with possible heavy showers and thunder showers. And then all communities in the Sawtoo have a high or extreme fire danger rating right now. And NWT Fire is expecting dry northerly winds in that region. In Newfoundland and Labrador, residents of Labrador City are heading home after wildfires forced an evacuation more than a week ago. The evacuation order uprooted almost 10,000 people, forcing many of them to Happy Valley Goose Bay, which is more than 500 kilometers away. Firefighters are still monitoring hotspots, but over the weekend, essential workers were allowed to return, and now everyone can head home. Here's more from Labrador City residents.
At 3 o'clock on a Friday, like I said, I was prepared to go on vacation, and I came up to check on things, and the guy said, look, we're in good shape, things are going well. Within less than an hour, it was, you need to put out an evacuation alert. And I was standing on the bridge of the town hall of Labrador City, and you could see the smog coming over, similar to an apocalypse or something, and you were like, what is happening?
So you left Friday night when the evacuation was called?
Yes, at first we're really hesitant, like we're really confused, is this really happening? But of course, the town just want us safe, so we really went to Churchill and then Goose Bay. It was good. It was good because they made us feel safe and secured.
We sold our old camper to a couple from Goose Bay. When we got over, we ran into them and they invited us to stay in our old camper. So we were like, well, this is home to us too. So we had a really good experience. Everybody treated us wonderful.
When you got home, how'd you feel?
Very good because I miss my bed and I miss my home, right?
It was actually a really great week, but I really am glad to be home, so thankful to be able to come back to my own home.
And what was it like to get to your house today?
Tears of joy. The cats were excited to be home, and just a relief that we left everything the way it was and we came back to the familiar again, and just so thankful and happy.
There's a lot of emotion here today to realize it's over, what we went through, what it took to get here, but got here with no injury, no deaths, kept our infrastructure in place and our homes, and we came back safely, and the business are surviving, and we're going to do well. These guys work extremely hard to protect your homes and cabins and make sure that we came back to a full community, including the cabin areas. I'm telling you, they are on a mission. Those guys are incredible.
So good that everyone is home safe and sound. It's a really nice feeling. Thanks to our colleagues in Newfoundland and Labrador for that story. Now, you saw earlier how smoky things are in Yellowknife and certainly other places in the country right now. And of course, humans aren't the only ones breathing in smoky air from wildfires. If you can't breathe well, neither can your pet. Ashwarya Duda checked in on zoo animals and spoke to experts about what you can do to keep your pets safe.
Rocket the raccoon at Saskatoon Zoo loves his cool treats, and he can sense a lot more with his hands than you'd think.
They do a lot of searching through water for food and for things. They have a lot of feeling, almost like taste buds on their fingers, so they can kind of taste what they're feeling and what they're going around. Some of the animals are doing wonderfully. They love it. The zebras are really, really excited about the heat. They love being out in this weather. Some animals are a little less excited about it. The snow leopard doesn't really love this weather as much.
Mitchell says they let animals choose if they want to be indoors, outside, or in the water.
The bear has an indoor enclosure in the back that both of them, Mistea and Coda, have the opportunity to go into to get out of the heat. It's definitely cooler back there and definitely a little not as smoky back there. They also have their pool that they use a lot.
Animal Protection Services are urging pet owners to keep a close eye on their animals.
We've had an increased number of calls, particularly during the heat, for still things, dogs being left in hot cars, situations like that, dogs without shelter. So under the Act, people are responsible for providing adequate shelter and reasonable protection from injurious heat.
Ferguson says if people are warned to stay inside, their animals should too. For that reason, Sandy Walls hasn't walked her dog the last few days.
Sometimes really early in the morning, if it's okay, and I'll check the network, and if it's a low risk, then I'll take him out literally just around the block.
Other tips for keeping your pets safe? Make sure they have lots of water and shade. The best way to cool them down is naturally. Get them indoors, offer them some water, and if they're experiencing heat stress, you might notice excessive panting, lethargy, and drooling. If things don't improve, get them to a vet. Aishwarya Duda, CBC News, Saskatoon.
The government of Nunavut is encouraging people to speak out about how the European Union seal ban has affected their lives. As you previously heard on Northbeat, the EU is conducting the first ever review of its seal ban. The CBC's Mahnur Mubarak has more on how the public can participate in that conversation.
The European Union seal ban stopped the import of seal products to Europe in 2009. And while exemptions were put in place later to allow Inuit and other Indigenous people to sell products made from seal, the government of Nunavut says the ban hurt the economy and livelihoods of Inuit. Now, the European Commission is collecting feedback from the public on the ban, and the GN is encouraging Nunavummiut to take part. Zoya Martin is the territory's director of fisheries and sealing.
And so this is a really good opportunity to not only educate, but to maybe correct some ill-intended impacts that happened with some of these regulations. This is our chance to have a voice.
David Kunuk is the GN's Deputy Minister for Economic Development and Transportation. Kunuk says the seal industry provided income for those in smaller communities in Nunavut back in the 1970s and 80s, and that once the seal ban was imposed, the price of seal pelts plummeted, and it was no longer a viable industry, which negatively impacted people as much as it did the industry.
That has a huge bearing on who you are, because you're no longer able to provide what you were able to provide, a good living for your family. So that has huge impacts. Like at the personal level, it was very damaging to Inuit.
Nicole Kamphog is an artist in Iqaluit who sells seal-based products. She said lifting the ban would be so much more than a potential economic boost for her.
Creating a livelihood for Inuit in their home communities. If there was support for sealing globally.
Deadline for submissions for the review is August 7th. People can submit their feedback online at the European Commission's website. Mahnur Mubarak, CBC News, Iqaluit.
Does public transit really need more police officers? And so this is it.
Welcome to the Greenbelt.
It is now believed that Titan was destroyed. It makes sense that they get a larger share, or does it?
All of this, just single detached homes.
Yes.
What do we know? How is that even possible? Well, with a little bit of help, I think we can explain it.
About that with Andrew Chang. Watch free on CBC Gem.
When we see Team Canada on the world stage, we're witnessing pure greatness. What we don't see is their struggle. We don't see Maggie McNeil navigating her anxiety, Shea Gilgeous-Alexander getting cut from his high school team, or Ellie Black hearing she's just too old to compete. What we don't see makes us who we are. We're all bravely facing the odds in our lives, and our bravery is our victory.
I'm such a fan of this show.
Listen to the podcast Q with Tom Power.
The story itself is so unbelievable.
The industry wasn't set up for me to thrive in.
The presence I feel now is not something that I believed to be possible in the past.
So many people thought I couldn't do it. They doubted me.
I felt like I ripped my whole heart out.
I didn't realize how formative 25 to 30 would be.
I have to kind of repress my own self-doubt.
You're one of my favorite interviewers, so I was pumped.
Get out of here.
Q with Tom Power. Available now on CBC Listen or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is unbelievable.
The heart and soul of any city is best served on a plate.
Très bon, merci.
I have some women to tell you about. You don't know them, but you will.
Thank you for choosing Plan B.
Tell me what I need to do to save my family.
Please enter your date of travel.
I can't do this anymore.
If you could go back, change things, would you do it?
In Whitehorse, local home builders are speaking out about a backlog of building permits waiting for approval. They say the delay is impacting the number of houses that will be built this year. One builder says the city should go back to its previous permit process. Liam Baker has more.
Local home builders say the issue began this spring. They say there are a number of new requirements for the permits, including the exact appliances that are going into the home. Jake Schneider is the owner of Kodiak Construction.
Most people do not have permits. We're going to have a huge lack of houses being built this summer, specifically based off these new rules and how long it's taking to get approved.
In a statement to the CBC, the city of Whitehorse pointed to 2 housing lotteries that they say increased the number of permit applications. The city also pointed to a staffing shortage within the permitting office, adding that they have hired external support to review the applications. John Vogt of Vogt Homes says the city is averaging 1 permit approval per business day. He adds that the lottery shouldn't factor into the backlog because the delay is so much longer than previous years. Vogt says the window for getting projects started is closing.
Usually you can get footings in without having to heat right up until Thanksgiving. But you get an early fall and the ground freezes and it's snowing and it's cold and you're done. You're either paying exorbitant amounts of money to heat your footings and your foundation, or you're just not building. So things need to be moving real fast, real quick, or we're going to run out of runway.
Vogt says that if permits don't start going through soon, skilled laborers might be looking for employment outside of the territory. And he worries that if that happens, those skilled laborers won't be coming back. Liam Baker, CBC News, Whitehorse.
The Canadian Medical Association says Canada's healthcare system is in crisis. There are still long wait times and emergency wards are often full. As well, millions of Canadians don't have a family doctor. In a new report, the association that represents Canada's doctors says it's time for an honest discussion about private and public healthcare. Megan Fitzpatrick has the details.
The CMA says the status quo is not working and changes are needed. In a new report, they note that governments are increasingly turning to the private sector to deliver publicly funded health care. Ontario, for example, is paying private clinics to do cataract surgeries. Prince Edward Island is using a private company to deliver virtual health care to its residents. And given this trend of using the private sector more and more, the CMA says it's time to talk about the mix of public and private healthcare delivery in this country. In a new report, it outlines various principles it says should underpin the health system, including transparency and accountability, and it makes 22 recommendations to address various healthcare challenges.
We should be able to recommend that if we are going to incorporate privately delivered services that are funded by the public system or funded privately, what are our guardrails? How do we ensure patients are getting the quality that they need?
A key recommendation is calling on governments to fund more healthcare teams. The teams could include not just a family doctor, but also maybe a nurse practitioner, a mental health professional, a dietitian, all paid for publicly. Dr. Danielle Martin is part of a family health team in Toronto. She says this model will not only give more access to primary care for millions of Canadians, but give them the right kind of care that they need. For example, someone with back pain, they need a physiotherapist, not a family doctor.
Having a physiotherapist working in a publicly funded team covered by your public health care plan can make a huge difference, and that can also extend the capacity of family doctors and nurse practitioners to take on more patients.
The CMA says 50% of Canadians should have access to a family health team within the next 5 years. Its other recommendations cover a range of topics. Bottom line, the CMA is saying if governments are going to change the existing mix and balance of public and private healthcare in this country, those policy changes should be based on solid evidence, and they should ensure that patients are getting more access, not less, to quality healthcare. Megan Fitzpatrick, CBC News, Toronto.
The Yukon government is in the process of replacing the territory's welcome signs. Soon there will be 9 new ones displayed at crossings with Alaska and BC. Each will feature artwork by local artists. Some Yukoners and Alaskans are criticizing the cost and the modern design. Others say, though, that the old ones were falling apart and it was time for a change. Callie McTavish dives into the discussion.
We've seen a lot of comments popping up online about the new Yukon welcome signs. Some people are very upset. They say the old signs were nostalgic and had rustic charm. Whitehorse photographer Steve Wilson is one of the residents that has denounced the cost and new look. He told CBC they look plastic and was frustrated by the $500,000 price tag. Some Alaskan tour guides are also unhappy. Aaron Gray with Frontier Excursions said in his experience, tourists are less inclined to want to stop and take photos with the new signs. He started an online petition last week that has already garnered a couple hundred signatures. So, did the signs really need to be changed? The Yukon government says it's been over 25 years. They may have looked fine, but closer inspection showed the wood was rotting and decayed. According to Cameron Weber with the tourism department, further refurbishments would not have been cost effective. And not everyone is against the change. Retired Whitehorse resident Laurel Perry says she's seen a lot of people online jumping to unfounded conclusions. The project has been 6 years in the making and involved multiple rounds of public consultation. The design and fabrication companies bid for their contracts. She also questions if this is really the most important issue happening in the territory right now. Talking to people around Whitehorse, a number of community members and tourists say the new signs are beautiful. One thing everyone can agree on is the choice to include murals by local artists. Each sign represents the region where it will stand. Callie McTavish, CBC News, Whitehorse.
Canada's most active community has been named, and this year's top prize went to a northern town. Hay River NWT is the winner of the 5th Participation Community Challenge. More than 1,200 communities across the country took part. For the month of June, they had to get as many people moving as possible. Hay River hosted 197 different events over the month. The grand prize is $100,000, which will be used to support physical activity and sport initiatives. And while the NWT town won the grand prize, it's not the only place north of 60 to win some money. Iqaluit and Whitehorse were each named the most active cities in their respective territories. And that also comes with a cash prize. $7,500 for Whitehorse, which will be used for the city's Fridays in the Park program, and $15,000 for Iqaluit. Finally tonight, we take you to Teslin, Yukon, where there's a special museum drawing visitors for its unique history. Marissa Mayer has that story.
Here in Teslin, there's a lot of history, and one of the best ways to learn about that history is by hitting the museum. The museum is, of course, all about George Johnston. At the age of 16, he ventured from Teslin to Juneau, and he returned home with a camera that he learned to use on his own. Here, through the photos and artifacts on display, visitors get to see the legacy of this journey. History has it that Johnston led change in a time when the Yukon was transforming.
It does teach about the history of the highway and also just like the history of this town and the culture here. Is George Johnston's car. He had a really good year trapping, so he went up to Whitehorse to sell his furs. And while he was there, he saw a car at the tailor and jewelry store, and he decided that he wanted to buy it. There were no roads in Teslin at that time, so everyone thought he was a little bit crazy, but he got it delivered down here by boat, and he got some local people to help him build a road.
Teslin is a very tight-knit community, which makes this place so meaningful for so many people. People can come back here and connect with their ancestors. For me, I turn around and I see my great-grandma Carrie. The museum is also one of Teslin's top tourist attractions. Staff say that travelers really connect to Johnston's story.
Like, we have tourists from all over North America stopping in here at the museum, and they share us of how impactful the museum was to them. They even compare it to some of the large museums in Ottawa and Vancouver and Washington, D.C. And so we really have a gem here in Teslin.
The museum currently gets just under 40 visitors per day. They expect an increase for their 50th anniversary next summer. Marissa Mayer, CBC News, Teslin. And that is Northbeat for tonight. For news anytime, go to cbc.ca/north. Thank you for watching. I'm Megan Roberts. Have a good night.
I was a grade 9.
Mr. Critch, you need glasses. Glasses? No, I just think the chalk is just a little soft.
One of these days we're gonna have to grow up, but today is not that day.
I don't want us to get older either.
Son of a Critch. Watch free on CBC Gem.
We're not gonna be here forever, right? Makes me want to make some changes, maybe a big one.
Your family can't take much more.
Anyone in your life know you're doing that?
Never really a good time to stir the pot.
I did not know what my future would look like.
The industry wasn't set up for me to thrive in.
I didn't realize how formative 25 to 30 would be.
I was so excited when they said I got to do an interview with you.
Q with Tom Power. Available now on CBC Listen or wherever you get your podcasts.
So you want to watch CBC News Explore, a new kind of news channel. Here's how to find us. We're on the CBC News app, on CBC Gem, and on your smart TV. Stream anytime. It's always free. CBC News Explore.
Sipping on a bit of Henny. Can
Then I get a little Remy, feeling heavy, chilling but I'm feeling ready. Pulled up in a big old Chevy, dance floor stops and me gal damn drops. Queen with the locks and the crown on top. Feet in a box, never sound on pots. If it ain't Danny, give me crown on rocks.
People dream of seeing the world, but I'm here to eat it. I genuinely love you. I'm here to show you the 12 dishes that define the city. Très bon, merci.
Watch CBC News Explore 24 hours a day for free. News you can trust, when you want, where you want. Download the free CBC News app.